Well, good evening, everyone. Those of you that are viewing at home, welcome, and those of you that come out tonight to be with us, thank you for being here with us for the regular meeting. It's Tuesday, February the 2nd. This is a Pascagoula City Council meeting, and it's 6 p.m. Our invocation tonight will be by Councilman Willie Jones and our Pledge of Allegiance by Councilwoman Comer.
Shall we bow our heads? Our Lord, our God, we're here tonight. We're graciously grateful for this appointed time of which you have given us. We're still praying for the healing of our nation, our country, our state, and our city. We pray now for your wisdom and your knowledge tonight as we sit here to serve the people here of this great city of Pascagoula. We pray for this mayor and this councilship. Every heart that's here tonight is in Jesus' name we pray and we thank you, Lord. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Thank you all. Next, we move on to our amendments to the agenda. Are there any?
I'd like to add something to 10A, just one thing before we start interviewing all of the school board.
All right. We'll put that as kind of 10-1A, and we'll put it as 10A2 as the interview. So that'll be the motion will be just before that. Anyone else? Any additions?
I make a motion we approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
So there's a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Next we have community recognition. Our Mayor's Youth Council. Any members in attendance? Thank you, Delisha. Thank you for coming and being a part tonight. We appreciate it. Next, we have a proclamation. This is for Kevin North, Jr. Whereas Kevin North, Jr. was born on February 13th, 2014 in Pascagoula, Mississippi, most affectionately known as KJ, he was a member of Union Baptist Church in Pascagoula, Mississippi, where he was christened December 2014. He loved attending church and looked forward to shaking hands with his pastor at the end of church services. He went home to be with God on October 10th, 2020. And whereas KJ loved playing football and baseball, but his favorite was basketball. He enjoyed watching his favorite players do trick shots and created endless videos of himself trying to duplicate their moves. KJ enjoyed being a big brother. He would tell everyone that listened about his little brother and let them know that he was his boss. He loved spending time with his family, mostly his Nana, who selfishly prepared steak dinners for him regularly. And whereas KJ was a burst of energy with such a vibrant personality, he loved big and never met a stranger. KJ was a first grade student at Cherokee Elementary and absolutely loved school. Made the best TikTok videos and loved to share them with his family. His eyes were always so bright and his big, beautiful smile was contagious. And whereas in honor of his 7th birthday, those who knew him would like to encourage everyone to love big, just like KJ, by greeting others with a bright smile, a warm hug, and a friendly hello. KJ's parents thanked the Pascagoula and Gulf Coast community for their continuous support and prayers. Moreover, to remind everyone that life is precious and to love people while you can. Now, therefore, I, Steve Dimitropoulos, Mayor of the City of Pascagoula, do hereby proclaim February 13th, 2021 as #LoveBigDay in the City of Pascagoula and encourage everyone to love big in honor of Kevin North, Jr. Thank you. If anyone from the family would like to come forward and make a comment, you're welcome to as well.
I'm KJ's mom. I miss him dearly, of course. But I just wanted to thank everyone in the community for all the support and love and the prayers that you all have given my family. I want his memory to continue on in a way that changes our community, because I just feel like everyone that he met, he loved, and no matter where they came from, who they were, what they looked like, he just loved them, and you know, he greeted everyone with a smile, and he was happy. So I just want to encourage everyone that no matter what you're going through or what you're facing, to just love big, and everything will work out and it'll be okay. And I just thank you for your time today.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, for a life that was cut short, and we celebrated. So let's do as the North say and love big as in any way we can. So, all right. Next, we move on to groups that are addressing the council. The first is Pascagoula Redevelopment Authority.
Yes, sir. We have Deborah here with the Pascagoula Redevelopment Authority. She's going to give an update, and we're going to try to incorporate this as often as possible for monthly updates to council. Deborah has been working really hard, and we're excited to see what she's going to continue to bring to the city of Pascagoula. And at this time, I'm going to turn the floor over to Deborah.
Hey.
Evening. Good evening. I hope you all are well. I'm heartbroken for that family, first of all. There is a lot of positive momentum downtown. I'm so excited in the past 30 days what we've done. First of all, a couple weeks ago, Katarina filmed an amazing video on Scranton's condos upstairs, and there are 4 of them there. And by Sunday afternoon, they're all rented.
Wonderful.
Yeah, so yay for Pascagoula downtown. We have 4 lofts that are rented. The team that did that, the construction crew, has moved over to Oddfellows already. And so they're working on that, and that will be ready by mid to late summer. So we will have 5 more there. Sorry, my little mask is a little small today. The Innovation Center, the USM team will have a feasibility study, and we should be able to see that very soon, by the middle of this month. So we're going to review that. We're again going to work with the Southern Mississippi Planning and Development Center to Development District to write the construction grant for that, for the Innovation Center. Donovan and I have been working all month long trying to get all of the buildings so that we have them listed up on the website so that there's one place to go to. And you can see all the buildings that are available in downtown, and it'll be very easy to see their square footage, location, and all the information will be listed on there nicely. And so we've been working with the real estate agents, building owners, investors, people of anybody, just trying to pull everything together. The Orion group, Bob Barber's group, was here this past week, and they are a group of planners and designers. And they spent last week with us. And they basically have the layout of the downtown and studied the 8 buildings and vacant lots that we have, and then the overall review of the whole downtown. And with that, they're going to come back to us and show us the possibilities of where we can go. And it was very exciting because some of these guys had been here a couple years ago and had seen the progress already done. So they were very excited to come back and see where we can go and what we can do. So we had a really good month. So I'm very pleased.
Thank you, Deborah.
Yeah,
You did a great job.
thanks.
We really appreciate it.
Thanks. We're having fun. We're moving and shaking. So we have.
Any questions?
Thank you.
No,
Have a
thank
good night.
you.
Thank you.
Deborah.
Let's see. Next address is 6B, MCC Park Baseball Field.
We have John Reynolds here tonight to talk about the NCC Baseball Park. And I'm going to turn the floor over to you. We've distributed the packets that you wanted to have given out to council.
I'm glad you spoke up because as old as I'm getting, I can't hear anymore. So, council, how are y'all? Nice to see y'all. First off, I'm representing 2 sides. One for the kids of Pascagoula and the surrounding areas, and then also of Resurrection Catholic School Baseball, because I am now pitching coach for Coach Johnny's staff in Resurrection. So when my wife can't find me and she knows I'm not at the office, she knows where to find me, and it's out on Orchard Road. And first off, I would like to say thank you. Holy cow. Both on the basketball side and on the baseball side. Councilman Fournette knows my history in basketball, and I'm just as excited about that as I am of anything else. And I will tell you, and this is deviating from what I did, I have come into town somewhere around 8 o'clock 2 nights a couple of weeks ago, minimum of 20 people out there with the lights going and playing basketball. And it wasn't the same people. So, phenomenal. If you can find more money and build another court, do it again, because I think that's great. First off, again, wanted to thank you and then address a few things. The improvements I know that were out there, the drainage, the concrete walk paths. If you have not been out there, it's incredible. Not only that, we had a work day last weekend that it rained. I put my galoshes on because I knew I was going to get wet, because that's what happens out there for the past years when I've been going out there. I was miserable all day. Should have had my tennis shoes on. It was dry as a bone. As much rain as we had gotten, we could have played baseball the next day. That's not only going to help as far as Resurrection Catholic School out here, it's also going to help other programs. I wish I would have shared a picture of someone pumping water off of the field this past summer so that we could have some activities out there, but what a great job. Improvements that are going on, the Resurrection, I don't know if you, again, have gone by there. There's a big building, big structure that's going out, the hitting facility, the Resurrection Catholic School is building with your permission, and we thank you for that. We are now in the middle of trying to finish the bullpen area. That should be finished by this weekend, and behind it is a training area and what we call a pitching wall, for arm care wall for the young guys to train their arms, whether it's through injury or strength training or whatever. So things are progressing. It looks like a great facility, phenomenal facility. I understand that there's going to be new netting put up. Thank you. That takes away some liability for both y'all and us, because we did have some holes out there and some dry rotting. So we appreciate that. The parking lot needed to go on both sides. Once you move the basketball court and you graded it out and we put the shells out there, it looked fine, looked great. Yeah, well, we can deal with dust, not a problem. No, we run out of money and couldn't pave. But the lights, thank you for the lights and the safety, and not only in the parking lot, but it helps the street, because that scared me as a parent, that scared me as a husband. That's a tough road out there. And granted, there's not a lot of traffic after about 7:30, but everybody's getting off work about 5 to 6. Everybody's coming to the fields about 5 to 6. There's a lot of traffic as it gets darker here in February, March as we play. Thank you so much. It helps greatly as far as that's concerned. What we're doing at RCS, to let you know, we're bringing in additional infill dirt. We're trying to bring in additional stuff for home plate to keep it maintained. That's stuff that we do yearly to take care of it. Again, we thank you. We know the city has gone out there. We've had to replace a pole, replace some lighting and some lanterns. And you can see, thank you, Mr. Silverman, for putting it up. And you can see how clean that it's gotten out there. It's going to represent the city well. It's going to do a great service. We'll bring in infill dirt. We've talked about top dressing. Mr. Clemens is helping us find some of the top dressing. We do need to figure out what we need to do with the right field batting cages, just because of needs to be cleaned up a little bit. I don't know what could be a plan for that. There's nothing to address here because we don't know as a school. I know it hasn't been brought to y'all at all, so that's something that hopefully as partners we can figure out either how to improve it or do something else with it in that area, because it's got a nice concrete slab. We got poles, and Jeff, help me, there's electricity to one of those poles, correct?
There was, there's not anymore.
Gotcha, okay, all right. The only major improvement, and I know this has come to you before, but I want to come as an alternative, is lighting. I have a concern, and I'm going to tell you why. I use that field, and Jeff can attest to this. I think in here, and you can attest to this. I didn't mean to point at you, but Mr. Scott can attest to this. 2 days, sometimes 3 days and nights a week, I'm out there with our youth. And we will have anywhere, sometimes 15, all the way up to about 35 kids. We start at 5 o'clock on a Tuesday, 5 o'clock on a Wednesday. I go till everybody's finished. I'm not embellishing, am I? Please correct me if I am. I'm not looking for a pat on the back. I'm not looking for anything. This is my love. This is my give back to the community. But I do worry about when it's dark and when it's dusk. We've got some places out there. So I've done a little homework. Mr. Silverman has been kind enough to open his office, and I've kept him abreast of some of the things that we've done. And I know that in the past, they've talked about hundreds of thousands of dollars for lights. I may have an alternative, which would be 10 or tens of thousands of dollars to improve the lighting there.
Can I ask you a question?
Absolutely.
Lights where?
At the baseball field at MCC Park. I'm sorry.
Okay, I'm
Thank
sorry. I thought that's what you were talking about.
I'm sorry, I
I've been out
apologize.
there, I've seen that. Now, you're talking about,
Well, and the one thing I was talking to why I'm telling you that is that we've got kids from Pascagoula High School that come out there that I train.
well, I've seen a couple of other coaches out there. Tiger
Well, I was
Woods
going to
and-
go back. We've
Okay.
got other groups in the county and the city that go out there. Tiger Stokes, who lives here, he
I'm sorry.
takes
I
out
said
there.
Tiger Woods. I'm
A
like,
gentleman by the
okay.
name of Y. Hayes brings kids down and he works with them. Sometimes we even get together and we'll play an impromptu game out there.
All right,
So it does get used outside of Resurrection High School baseball. Not only that, we were able, through Resurrection and a fundraiser for them, I offered to bring in teams to play. We brought in 23 teams this past summer for 4 days, 7 of which stayed 2 to 3 nights at our local hotels. I will give you a testimony. I had a call about 3 weeks ago, a good friend from Montgomery who came. He said, "What was that restaurant you sent me to?" I said, "Bozo's." "Yeah, that's it." I said, "Why do you want to know?" His name's Tim. He says, "I got a friend coming to Ocean Springs. I'm telling him to come eat there." I'm in George County. I get a call from a Montgomery number. "Hey, I'm in Ocean Springs. We just got through playing in a youth football game, but Tim says I got to come to Pascagoula to eat at Bozo's." So he brought 3 families with him. So this is some of the things that can do with the park at Tucker Street, MCC, the soccer fields. We've got things here to bring people to use it. And this is a testimony. This isn't a, hey, we've done it. I really don't know if anybody's using the field. You know, is anybody out there? I can attest to it. There is. When we bring kids out there to train, we have ex-MLB scouts and coaches. We have current college coaches that come out there. This isn't dads that want Junior to be the best kid and just cater to them. I mean, we work with them. We work with them. And so there's good quality instruction that's going on out there. In August, we had 17 teams come in. 4 teams stayed one night, Saturday night, because during school year, they can't come on a Thursday like they did. And again, that's 17 teams that are eating at local restaurants. Both the boys and girls baseball and softball field are used regularly from league practice and local travel teams. And the reason why I get out there so early is because we got to fight for the field sometimes, which is fine. First come, first serve. Have no problem with it. Flexible schedule, so I'm the first come. And so a lot of people use the softball field next door, especially 12, 11-year-olds. So it is utilized, and it's great that it is. Going to the lighting, and you see, and this is where I've got some concern liability-wise. Now, I have all the kids that come work out with me sign a liability waiver. But we all know that that's a piece of paper and somebody's gonna have to fight, etc. I spoke with Mr. Holland at Weaver, the repairs they had on a pole and a light out in the outfield. He did tell me that they have not aimed all the lights because I asked him about that, and thank goodness I called because he said, "You know, John, I have that in the budget, but we haven't done it yet. Thanks for calling. We're going to get out there and do it." So that's a positive because I was out there the other night and I was like, Jiminy Crickets. You know, they changed the lighting, but it's really not any better. I asked him about a few poles, and that's what happens. That's the great thing about communication. So that's great. So we have a problem with additional lighting, but we've got things that can't be done out there. All right? Right now, it's a lack of circuitry. We don't have enough juice to add additional lights as they step. You just don't have it. The wiring right now is maxed out. So that's how the conversation starts, and then we start brainstorming and think about it. They said they could upsize the breakers and add circuitry. The problem there is that the conduit that's already laid will not support more wiring. Okay, so what's the next solution? He could add some infill lights because they're close enough to the breakers that they could add circuitry, but then we get into another liability issue going immediately from a a bright area into a really dim, dark area in the outfield. That increases the chances of somebody getting struck by a batted or a thrown ball. And he says, John, you don't want that. So those ideas, are gone. We could replace the conduit that runs to the outfield. That's cost, timing, digging up, etc. Would that be correct, Jeff, as far as that's concerned? We could add an additional pole with a bank of lights, and I'm getting to what could possibly be a short-term solution. With the new facility that has been built there, we ran, it was part of the project, right? The conduit that went out there?
No, Weaver did it in addition to.
In addition to. So now we've got conduit running to the facility. We can build circuitry, we can build breakers according to him in his preliminary findings and studies. The cost for one light is $4,000. That's a pole going up, etc. He says, but for each additional light, it's $600. Well, you've got all the fixed costs up front of the wiring, the breaker, the circuitry, everything, so it doesn't matter if you put 1 or 6 once you get it done. So it brings that cost down quite considerably. One thing that he's going to check is if we do put a pole north of that building and we can get 5 lights there, aim the lights that we can't do anything with somewhere else, how does that help our park and field? Does it get to the point where it brightens it up, the liability's less for everybody concerned, and it's a park that kids from 12 to 18 years old and even people that get out there older, can use at night. I've talked with the people with Resurrection. I put in there, hey, is this something that we could work partnerships with and split the cost? We can raise money, but it does help that if we're a little short or something that the city could help, we do things in return going, because we do maintain the field in the summers, keep grass from growing into the dirt situation. We do a little bit of cutting that's out there. And just to give you a final example, they told me, Mr. Holland said, that pole that's in the softball complex, or the softball field that's in the west corner that broke during the storm, said it cost $10,000 to replace that pole, put 5 lights on. So at least we know a ballpark. And instead of coming and saying, hey, we need new lights and it's going to cost $250,000, did my homework. Can we do this, improve the lighting, work in conjunction in a partnership here to where we spend fractions of that and make that park even better than what it has become just in the last 60 days? I mean, it is something to behold. And, I'm playing fantasy baseball. Let's don't kid ourselves. I'm a 54-year-old, guy that works in finance, and I get an opportunity to be a pitching coach. Don't tell anybody that, I lied to get there. But in all honesty, I'm having fun. I'm using it as a citizen of Pascagoula and recreation. I enjoy going there every day. And I would just like, because I know we have to have permission to do things, because it's y'all's property and we're leasing it, is this something that y'all would be in favor of us going forward, presenting the costs, et cetera, to do that, and then trying to speed up the process if it is an approval to go forward? And that's why I'm here tonight.
John, I'd like to make a comment and ask you a question. So my concern would be that we're either going to have to go back with older technology, HID, to match the lighting color, or we go LED. And it would be very difficult to put a pole up to LED and then the rest of it be HID. I think you'd have the same problem as far as safety and different light outputs. So my question, and Charlene may be able to help me out a little bit. So our bond, our rec bond payment is in the neighborhood of $750,000 to $800,000 a year, correct?
With interest and all, it runs about $850.
Okay. And Michael, I read the rec commission minutes the other day, and I think last year we took in a little over $1 million in the prepared food tax.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
I would actually like to see, instead of mixing the technologies or spending our money to put up older technology, is to find out, and I'm typically not for leasing lights, but I would like to see the Mississippi Power, what they would do to light that field and what our yearly payment would be, and see if we couldn't, a portion of that extra money be fit in there. Unless, Charlene, you think you have something that's tabbed for that extra $200,000 a year.
Well, there's
Always something, I know. But I mean, this is a project, it's a rec project, it would fit into the money spending, but, yeah, I mean, I would just hate to see us start throwing money into HID lights to match what's out there, and then all of a sudden, you know, you replace 2 or 3 lights, and then you decide to do it.
May I address a couple of things you said, so that for knowledge? Mr. Holland told me that mixing LED and what we have out there says, you know what, John, he says, you're going to be satisfied for about a year. And he says, and then you're going to call me and you're going to run into more expense than what you have. He says, because it's not going to work. It wouldn't even work replacing all of them with LEDs with the same circuitry and breakers that we have.
Well, I kind of disagree with him on that, because you would be going from, there's either a 1,000-watt metal halide or a 1,500-watt metal halide, and most of your LEDs, the benefit are when they run less power, so they're usually 750 watt. So I can't see how the size of the wire would actually come into play. Now, the wire may not be any good, that may be the case, but I don't think having the...
And now we're getting way out of my pay grade. Yes.
Can I raise my hand and say something?
Yeah.
Well, I agree with Scott. I mean, but the great thing is we have Jeff Clemens. So why don't we, if we, because we do have folks going out there, we have RCS out there, but we also have community folks going out there. I've been out there, I've seen it. Ride by there, you see people out there. I really didn't realize that was you, honestly. But I do know that you like to play.
I do.
I do know Shug is older.
I do. I'd rather be there than anywhere else, to be honest with you.
So if we do agree on that, why don't we just get Jeff? Jeff, that's what you do, isn't it?
I am not the electrical lighting expert, but I know the ones that know the answers.
Okay, so why don't we get Jeff to kind of look into that, and when he gets the information, you want to come back when we have some answers?
Absolutely.
We can kind of
and Jeff, I'll take, Mr. Holland is supposed to be contacting Mississippi Power because he came up with the idea on the 7-year lease, because we'd like to know, what the expense, would be on that.
We probably
we're looking, to help partnership, et cetera,
Mississippi Power and Scott's probably more familiar with this than any of us, but they've got a lot of different options. A lot of different lighting options, but they also have a lot of different lease term options where no money up front, you put some money up front. But another thing to consider here is, aside from the lighting technology, one of those poles they were working on a couple of weeks ago, he went to take a screw gun and to fasten a piece of conduit, and the bit punched into it 3 inches. Because those poles, they got to be 40 years old.
Oh, wow.
Or older. Now, when that facility was built, maybe 30, 40 years. But, and there's a couple of them been replaced, but the old creosote ones are tetrachloride or whatever they are. Those are, nearing the end of their life expectancy. So far as what you can get out of it. You know, that hole that broke on the softball side, you know, we probably had problems before the wind snapped it, so. Yeah, are they gonna break tomorrow? No, probably not, but it's something that, you know, is, over the next 5 years, they're just gonna degrade even worse.
Right.
So we've identified some opportunities here, so we'll just come back with some options. That's what the main thing we need. And then Michael can work with Resurrection as well to kind of see if there's a partnership that we can do. And so we'll bring it back to the council, and then we can come up with a good decision.
May I
Yes.
just ask for one more thing too? I know our lease is January to June, and we want that place to be as nice and as pretty as it can be. I know we had to come, you know, we started building on the bullpen, had to come and stop and get permission. Is there anything that we can do to probably expedite if we have something we would like to do to?
I know the Recreation Commission is looking at that agreement, and we can get back on that. I know that's something that Mr. McElhaney is looking at as well, so we can get back.
Okay. Because I'd hate to miss, you know, I told somebody the other day, you know, we had somebody that said, hey, if I ever have excess concrete, y'all have any place that you need that? God, you know, I'd hate for get a call at 3:30 and we can't do it because we haven't been here, but yet, you know, we want to do a pad to keep screens or the turtle or whatever, you know, to make it cleaner, you know, and more presentable out there. That's why I brought that up, but that's great. I didn't know it'd been, I didn't know it was being addressed.
We can look at that further to see, okay?
Super.
Okay, thanks, John.
I appreciate it. Sorry I took up your time, but I thank y'all
Thank you for coming.
so much. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you. I'll try. If not, I'm calling you coming up.
Next, we have a 6C, review of 2020, just some of our things that we've worked on. I want to just take 10 minutes, and that's all I'll take because I want to be brief, but I wanted to just highlight some of the things that the council's accomplished over the past 1 year, and it helps us kind of strategically focus. It allows us to look back and see what we've done, but also allows us to look forward and see what needs to be done going forward. As you know, probably the biggest things that were done were personnel related, and I'm not going to go off of all these. I'm just going to kind of pick some things off them. But, you know, a year and a half ago, we started building a whole brand new team. You know, a new city attorney, Michael Moore, a new city manager, Michael Silverman. Then Michael then built his team around him, Katerine Lukatich, a communications director. We lost our HR director, and so Justin Larson was moved to that position. We created a position that's really paid dividends for us, and that's the athletic director. And we hired David Bates for that position, and we moved Mike West to be in charge of park upkeep, maintenance, and repair. And I'll show you how that's really paid dividends. I'll kind of divide some of these in about 4 different categories of things that I think were significant. And so the quality of life part of it, we completed a sportsplex, and that's what you all have been involved with for the last 3 years. We moved out of an agent type of situation, so David was able to book the teams. And as of now, there's 22 tournaments coming, February through July. And there's 30 to 45 teams per event. If you even look at it on the kind of a conservative side, generally it's about 45 people per team. And so that's 1,350 people per weekend that we'll be hosting, that eat in the restaurants, that buy gas, that stay in hotels. That's about 30,000 visitors on the conservative side from February to July. So not only it's a nice place that enhances the quality of life for the people, but it becomes an income generating center for us as a city. Some of the other things that in quality of life is that we worked on beautification of I.G. Levy Park and got the Frisbee golf course cleaned up and restoration of the I.G. Levy Lake. We got Tidelands grants to focus on Point Park repair, and you know, fishing is such a big part of our community, so we've really tried to focus on getting our fishing piers up to speed. And not only did we get it for that, we got $450,000 in Tideland grants for Lighthouse Park as well, and so additional piers there and improvements for the fishing. And then we worked on how to get better access to Lighthouse Park by getting a quicker little detour right off of Highway 90 going west. And so we put that into place as well, and that's still being worked on. Kind of under beautification, we met and we started having weekly, this will be from a simple thing, weekly cleaning of the overpass bridge by utility partners. And then we developed a maintenance map, so we made sure all the groups like utility partners, turf masters, parks and rec, that all the areas were being covered that are important to us, and also this emphasis on trash collection or litter collection. We began a litter cleanup campaign, and we worked with the police to put up signs, not only the signage, but there's fines associated with that for people that break those laws. And then we also, as they partnered with us, they were able to allow people to work off old fines by going out on Saturday and picking up litter as well. So just more creative ways to help beautify our city. We did a really big thing, is first time ever cleanup of homeless encampments throughout the city. And literally tons of garbage. And this was directly related to the work of one of our council members and working with private landowners. And this paid huge dividends for us to get all that area cleaned up. Of course, we had partnerships with Pascagoula Pride and Main Street to recognize businesses and to incentivize them to spruce up their businesses. The third thing I'd say under communications that we worked hard at is to develop a new position for our Director of Communications, and she then worked on improving our city website. We got a monthly e-newsletter going out. We had weekly videos notifying the public of PRA projects. So a lot of activity of trying to keep people better informed. And then there's partnerships. And the partnerships I'll talk about are things like working with CSX to move the interchange from midday to occurring at night. So it improves the quality of life, but it just demonstrates the importance of partnership. We visit all the major industries, and our message there was, thank you for being job creators, and how do we get your people to choose Pascagoula as a choice for their workers to live. Work with the Jackson County supervisors, and really we need to thank both Ken Taylor and Melton Harris, our supervisors, for the support that they've given us, all the paving that's taking place all over the city. And now the repairs and maintenance at the Pascagoula branch of the Jackson George County Library that they're helping us with. So great, really strategic partners for us. We worked with PRA and as well for multiple mixed-use buildings downtown. And the other couple little things that I'll mention, partnerships with our employees. We're able to give our employees a 3% COLA this year, the first since 2013. We worked with our fire and police departments to make them more, increase their recruitment rates and help with their retention by some of the things that we did with increasing the step. That's the amount that you enter in as a police officer from a lower step to a higher one, so they enter at a higher level. And even simple things like working with Jackson County utility authorities to put up additional misters around the wastewater treatment plant and to run them more frequently. So, look, I just mentioned these things. There's a whole big assessment, but I picked those out. I want you to know that your council's been hard at work, actually doing things that we can point to that improve our quality of life and make this a better place to live. And so, it helps us to know there's still a lot more work to be done, but we've kind of been able to check some things off the list. And I think that's a good place for us to start as we look forward to a new year and strategically position ourselves. So that's all on that one. Next, let's see, public hearing. Let's see, 7A, Mr. Scruggs.
Good evening. Got a couple of lot cleanings or public hearings regarding property here in town that were placed on the agenda at our January meeting. The first item is 3006 Canty. This is a project that's basically across the street from the county complex and just south of this area. This is a image of the property, I guess, back when we posted earlier this year. The owner and I had a conversation, and his intention is to save the structure. He, first of all, went through the effort of knocking out current code violations to secure the building, and did a good job at it. This is a picture of the building today. This is side images. This is what it is from the rear. A total improvement, primarily by knocking out the obvious violations and accessibility. So he wants to try to save the building, and I know that a Historic Preservation Commission has voiced concerns that they want to save the building as well. What and I spoke with Mr. Gardner about this, what I'm proposing is that with his ongoing efforts, if we could table this item for 60 days until April 6th to monitor the progress. I want to have a definite date. I want to make sure that he does not slow down, and that we can go through the process of making sure we get it done correctly. And then if indeed he is making great progress, that I can determine that we don't need to come back to this body. If he does not continue the efforts and it does go astray and it sits like it is right now, then we can bring it back on April 6th and we'll address it at that point.
Make a motion, we table 7A till April 16th.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item is 2310. We placed this on for order last month, primarily because at the time there was a concrete blocks were in there, and they were left over from Zeta, and there had been no real improvements to no effort to get rid of that. We had a numerous conversations with the property owner. He had it rented to a church. Basically, he is doing what he can to eliminate that relationship with the church or the lease and sell it. I think there's a letter in your packet from the property owner to the south that is trying their best to buy the building, and the owner of the building is trying to sell the building. So they are working together to try to make this happen. Now, as you can see from this image, there's some, the roof is not exactly in the best of shape. The structure itself is in good shape, but the roof needs some work. The current owner wants to simply put a 3-tab or shingle type roof that will be quick and easy. The proposed purchaser wants to do a metal roof that will be long term. So really don't want to throw good money at a project if the long term plan is to put a metal roof on it. So the roof needs to be addressed, but we're trying to let the transaction happen and then address it. If you want to, like I said, I don't think we need to. I don't really think we need to clean remove the structure or anything. If you want to do a motion or make some effort to actually hold their feet to the fire, we could do the same thing, either table it or adopt a resolution to basically give them 60 days to make this transaction happen. And if not, they need to secure the building. But I would recommend just tabling it or drop it.
Is the building secured now? I mean,
The building is secure. Okay. The building is secure. The only thing that really needs to happen is that the roof needs to be addressed. I think, like I said, the seller wants to, the property owner is prepared to do something, and the potential purchaser is prepared to do something. They're just different, and nobody wants to do anything until they know what's going to happen with the building.
So your recommendation is to table it to April 6th also?
I'm sorry?
April 6th, table this
We
one?
can do that, yeah, and that way it gives them 2 months to kind of get this issue resolved.
I make a motion that we table 7B to April 6th.
Second.
Thank you.
The motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Next, we have our public comment section. Is there
There are no public comments, Mayor.
no public comments? Okay. Next, you have before you your consent agenda. Is there anything that anyone would like to speak to the mayor?
No comment, make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Next, we go to our number 10, our city manager section. And yes, Matt.
Yes, sir. We had a vacancy take place. This is for the Pascagoula Goshen School District Board through the resignation of Judge McNeil being appointed to the federal bench. We requested applications to fill the vacancy for a term that expires in March 2024. We received 4 applications. I know that Councilman Palmer, I think, wants to talk about the appointment policy before we commence with the interview process. I'll turn the
That's
floor
correct.
back to you.
So that's 10A, Councilwoman.
Excuse me, before we get started, my wife is employed with the district, so I've been advised by council that I
yet.
need to
Not yet.
step out.
I would like for you to sit here for this, because it's going to apply to many,
You good with that?
many appointments by this council and future councils. First of all, we have a missing council person tonight because he's watching his son play ball. And that's important because every council member should be here when we appoint persons to boards. Second, I think that boards and commissions have a direct impact on much more of our lives than folks realize. And I think, you know, what I'm going to ask is when we interview folks, you know, we interview folks and then we immediately make an appointment that night. And what I'm going to ask is if we could interview folks and make an appointment at our next meeting. So if we could interview folks at our first meeting of the month and make the appointment at the very next meeting.
I agree, totally.
And I'm asking that because especially for this appointment, the school district has a larger budget than the city. You know, I mean, I just think that it's a disservice to the residents if we don't do a really good job when we make appointments to boards. And that's all I'm asking. You know, I'd like for Stephen to be able to watch the videos of these folks doing their interviews. So I'd like to, if anybody wants to discuss that, I would like to make a motion that we do the interviews the first week of the month of our first meeting, and then we make the appointments at the second meeting of the month for every appointment that we need to make.
I'll second that.
Thank you.
There's a motion and a second.
Well, I would like to make a comment that I do like the idea that we interview them and we make the appointment the next one because it gives you some idea, because I always come up with questions and want to know answers after the interviews and you're kind of put on the spot. So I do like that. As far as the comment, you know, as far as I know, I don't think we've had a full council here in probably the last 10 meetings, and I'm not sure we'll ever have them. So I'm not sure if that's so important to me as far as having everyone here to vote.
It's the
But
COVID thing.
I do like the idea that we were able to take in what we heard and really give them a thought instead of just being put right on the spot to make a selection. Very difficult.
Well, good point. This is you know, I'm hopeful that if Matt has to recluse himself too, it'd be important to have Stephen to be able to vote if he's available too. So we have a motion and a second. If there's not any further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right. So our process will be then, we'll take our interviews for our application tonight, and then we'll we'll think about it then over the next 2 weeks, and then we can allow for our voting to take place at our next council meeting. Fair enough? Okay. Now, I'm going to take the applications just in alphabetical order, just because it's the easiest way. We have 4 applicants, and so first, Mr. Ashbaker. Tom, you can come to the podium and introduce yourself. And what let's do is, if we have your resumes before us, so you don't have to go through all that. I think probably the relevant part is just to say why you want to be on the school board and what do you think you have to offer, and then we'll allow for some questions.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for your time and consideration. My name's Tom Ashbaker. I'm a pharmacist and the owner of Gulf Coast Savorex right here in Pascagoula. I'm married to Rachel Willis Ashbaker. Both of us are Pascagoula natives, as well as products of the Pascagoula school system grown up. We have 3 kids in the district. We'll have 3 next year. Their ages are 8, 6, and 5, and we're both heavily involved with the community as well as our kids' activities. One thing I think that I could bring is as a pharmacist as well as a business owner is a unique perspective to the board. As a pharmacist, I've worked with lead nurse Christy Tingle in coordinating vaccinations for the district employees. And that opportunity has given me a chance to get into the schools and see the facilities and work with various employees and admins and things like that. And especially with this last year and COVID-19 and things like that, I feel like as a pharmacist, I'm very accessible and available for any type of health type related sanitation protocols and things like that. I'm very up to date with many different aspects of that just through my trade. I've also am involved with regional and national pharmacy boards, so Mississippi's Pharmacy Association as well as the National Community Pharmacy Association. I'm an active member in both of those. And not only that, but I also have great working relationships with physicians, local physicians, as well as other nurses and things like that in healthcare. So I would be, I think, a good contact point if there was ever anything to come up when it came to protocols and things like that. Next, I'm a business owner, and I feel like the school district should run as a business. As a business owner, I'm constantly always looking to attract qualified employees, looking for any ways to make my business better. And I feel like I've got good wisdom to understand financials and financial statements and budgets and things like that, because I do it on a daily basis in my own pharmacy. So I feel like having that knowledge as well as understanding and also being able to communicate with other private sector citizens and you, the council, about any financial issues or questions or things that may come up, I feel like I would have a good hold on a lot of that conversation. So thank you for your time, and if you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer any.
I always have questions.
Sure.
I served on this board for almost 8 years, so I always have questions. When I was on the school board, through today, the one overriding issue that is prevalent year after year is the fact that the atmosphere within the system is not good.
Okay.
I have heard this from administrators, teachers, and staff. In fact, I hear from other board members from other surrounding school districts that teachers apply for teaching positions outside of PGSD
Right.
for less money. This information does not come from just a few individuals, but a wide variety of individuals. So what is your understanding or appreciation of this problem within PGSD? Do you know it? Do you understand it? Do you...
Yeah, I mean, I've heard that, you know, is something that may be an issue. I'm not aware of all the issues going on with the district, but that is one thing I'd be willing to find out. I feel like in my experience as not only a business owner, but just a pharmacist in charge of numerous pharmacies before I decided to open my own pharmacy, I feel like typically whenever you have, it could be maybe one of two things, you know, maybe poor leadership from the top down, or maybe it's unqualified people coming up. So I don't know if it's a top to bottom issue or a bottom to top issue, but those are questions that I think that would be fair to, you know, investigate and look into and talk with the superintendent about and things like that, just to get a better understanding of why are people doing this? What is it about the opportunity that you would want them to leave? Because I know when people come into my pharmacy, I always tell my staff, if they come in, we're going to make it to where they come back. And so, you know, it would just be a matter of just kind of getting a good perception out there of, you know, hopefully, you know, we are having good administrators down, and hopefully we are, you know, hiring the right people, and that would be just something I would think.
What do you see as opportunities and challenges in the district?
I feel like a good opportunity is, now I don't always check in on the city council meetings or whatever regularly. I do every once in a while whenever there's an agenda that pops up, but I feel like...
We don't have your 3 kids here, I guess.
Yeah. But I feel like, you know, there could be an increased communication between the school board with the city council. Over the last several meetings, I think like a quarterly report or something like that might be beneficial with the city and the school board to make sure they're on the same page and understanding budget and things like that. I think that would be something that may be a challenge that we could, you know, possibly work on. And that was a 2-part question. I've forgotten the other part of the question.
What do you see as opportunities and challenges?
You know, everything is perception. I feel like, you know, me as a business owner, I mean, I market, you know, Facebook, I do things. I love it whenever people have a good experience at my pharmacy, and then they'll comment or make a post or things like that. And I know there's several other avenues through besides Facebook, but I feel getting that perception out there about the great things, because whenever I feel like something great happens, you need to know about it, and the public needs to know about it, and the citizens need to know about it. I mean, I feel that getting that out there, that, oh, this was a great experience that my child had, or, you know, this is an A-rated school. I mean, I know we do banners, and I've helped hang some of those at some schools, but just getting more of it out there, that we have awesome facilities as well as great leaders in there, and we should let everybody know about it.
And what motivates you to want to become a board member?
I've got 3 of them, and their ages 8, 6, and 5, and they're going to be in the school district for a long time, and I want to see them do well and succeed, and they're my most important thing. So having them do well and be a part of it is my biggest driving force.
My last question. What are the factors on which you will base your decisions?
I'm not a real knee-jerk reaction type of person. I like to see all angles and see other options and alternatives, and I do try to prioritize, the importance of different things. If there has to be a tough decision to be made, it'll be something that I would take into deep consideration rather than just making a judgment right there. I mean, there might be some circumstances where you would have to do something quickly, but I think I've got a good temperament for, I believe, this position.
Thank you for letting me ask all those questions.
You're welcome.
Jennifer asked some great questions, and that leaves me with one that I don't think we touched on, but I hear a lot of times that, discipline in the school room these days is a real challenge for teachers. Do you have an opinion on should you leave problem children in the classroom to disrupt everybody, or do you have an opinion on how we need to handle discipline in the classroom?
I'd have to probably know more about the policy of the school board. I don't know what constitutes as, if they're fighting or if there's bad language or what the situation is. I think a lot of it could be situational, depending on the extremity of it. I think is where you kind of make your decision. If it's recurring, I would assume, after you get teachers involved and administrators involved, then you could develop a plan to, hopefully make a best fit for everybody, because, you don't want to rob a child from learning, but at the same time, you don't want to have them distracting, the other students that are trying to learn too. So I feel like it's a situational type thing that, I'd have to know a little bit more information about depending on the.
Okay, thank you.
So you have an answer to this question. I don't know if you have looked at other districts to see what they're doing that you try to bring to our district as far as just higher rated schools than ours. There has to be some things that they're doing that has them where they are. I understand about the demographics and all of that, but have you seen anything or heard about anything in any other district that you would probably try to bring into the school board member?
Not necessarily. Not that I live in the little bubble of Pascagoula by any means, but I do have a niece and two nephews that live in Ocean Springs or in the Ocean Springs School District, and they're significantly older than my children. So, their issues versus my, daily life is a little different. But, I'd be an accessible person is, to hear any, things that are going on. I could reach out. I'd love to reach out to, other people that live in those other communities and say, hey, how's this working for you, or different scenarios like that.
Sounds good.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
How do you feel about the Opportunity Center here on Tucker Street? What's your take on it? Are you familiar with it?
I'm not. Repeat that for me.
I'm sorry.
I didn't understand what
the Opportunity Center.
Oh, the Opportunity Center.
What's your take on it?
I've been in there for vaccinations, and that's really about it. I don't know how many students are there or many things like that. That's another thing, like I said, that I may be a little naive in knowing, but that's something, I understand that just because my kids are in elementary school, that with the school board, there's other ages of students and other circumstances. So I know that I'll be more involved with the high school age and junior high and middle school all the way down, and even the Opportunity Center to find out, what's going on there.
Well, that's why I was asking, because the Opportunity Center is for elementary, middle school, and high school.
Right. I don't know a ton about the Opportunity Center.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? Mr. Ashbaker, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll, of course, we'll go just through each as we talked. Next, Ms. Black.
I just thank you for having me here this evening. My name is Cynthia Black, my husband Clay Black. We have together 4 children. I have 2 that went through this school district. They both have graduated since. One of them is a business owner in our community, Christina Bates, and she has Old School Learning Depot, and she's doing great things with that. The other one graduated from here, and she went to, she started with Mississippi Community College, then went to Mississippi College and became a nurse. She worked for the university as a pediatric oncology nurse. She now is a school nurse for St. Andrews. So, you know, they've done very well in this community, and they're very committed as far as, you know, I know with Christina, she is. I was really excited to hear some things about David and the things that he's doing, but I've been here for about 20 years. I came in 2000. I moved here from San Diego. I'm originally from South Texas. My father was in the military. He met my mother there, and we always make a joke because my mother's Mexican and my dad's Puerto Rican, and they always say, how did those two get together? Because you don't mix the two, and you better know the difference, you know? So, but it's been a great life. I've traveled quite a bit being in the military. I come from a very diverse background. I worked with Moss Point School District for almost 15 years. I've done HR for almost 25 or more years. I'm currently the president for the local or Gulf Coast SHRM Association. And so I was president last year, and with COVID happening, there was a lot of changes. So they asked me if I would be president again this year. So I am doing that and trying to train up the next group to really be ready, because there's been so many changes. With COVID, you really have to stay on top of things. At Moss Point School District, I was very involved with the EEOC and writing responses. I was involved with doing administrative hearings. I worked closely with our board attorney on different things, really working with the teachers, doing recruitment, trying to remind people of why they got into teaching and what their purpose was, and finding that one child. And it was really important because being in Moss Point, we could not compete with Pascagoula. And so it was very hard to watch people leave and being reminded that we are the training ground in Moss Point. But Moss Point has done some great things, and there's been a lot of changes. I'm no longer there, but I did move to the People's Bank. I've been there for about 3.5 years. But I can tell you that school business I'm very familiar with. I've worked closely with our CFO, with the superintendent, and with the administration. And one thing I've always said is that school business is just in my blood. The reason I want to serve on this board is because I do believe in education. I thought I was going to be the first college graduate of my family. Unfortunately, my daughter Christina beat me by a month. And but we always push the importance of education. I needed that in my life, and I needed that for my girls. Being a single parent, it was very difficult. But I knew that public education was everything, and you had to be involved. So I've been involved. I've always been involved with the youth at my church. I just, you know, they always said, Mom, you're just everywhere. And I said, because I'm watching. I want you to do well, and I want you to move beyond what the stigma is, you know, what people think should happen with you. And I just want you to do better. I want you to do better than me. And so, and I believe that they have. They just have beautiful families, and I'm so proud of each one of them. And so I want to serve the community. For so long, I said, I'm not from here. You know, well, I'm not really from here. The truth is, I am now from here. And I've always served in different areas. I've served on boards. I serve as the board chair for Jackson County Civic Action right now. So I'm ready. I'm ready to serve this community. I'm ready to serve these students, the staff, and to make a change. And so that's what brings me here tonight.
Questions?
I have a question. What kind of changes do you want to make?
You know, I think it's important that, you know, first of all, I don't know everything that's going on in the district. You know, so it's to find out what's going on. You hear that there's some things as far as, you know, staffing and retention. You know, I think it's important that staff be reminded why they're here. But they need support. They need administrative support. They need to know that somebody's listening to them. And, you know, sometimes the board can get tricky. Being on the other side, watching the board, preparing things and trying to support your administrators who have to make tough decisions, right? And making sure documentation, being in HR, documentation is everything. If there's not a document, it didn't happen. And that was always the hardest thing to get people to understand, especially our administrators and our principals. You need to be specific in what you're writing. This has to speak for itself. When you're not here, this better speak. Because that's what has to serve when you go into court. And sometimes you have to think that way. But, you know, I want to see where, you know, that staff is excited to be here. That, you know, that they choose this city to not just live, but serve. Because the more that they see that their kids are here, you know, that's what we want. And that's what you're doing here. You're trying to make this a place that families want to come to. And I may not have small children, but I have 9 grandchildren. So, and 2 are in this district. So, you know, I want it to be a place that people choose to be, not just the city, but because of the school district. And most people move into a city because of the school district when you want families.
I've got a question. I see that you have an associate degree in accounting. As Ms. Comer had pointed out, the biggest part of, I think, you know, being on the school board is watching the budget and being prepared. Would you be comfortable working with budgets, and have you worked with budgets in the past?
Yeah, so I serve on the board with the Jackson County Civic Action, and we have to look at the budget all the time. We have to see the decisions that are being made and why they're being made. Being with the school district, I know that there's federal funds, I know that there's local funds, state funds, and then where you're going to allocate it, and be very careful. Because if you don't allocate it right, and you say it's a federal fund, and you don't follow what you need to do with that, you can easily lose those funds. So I'm not, you know, I got my associate's degree in accounting because, well, I just didn't like talking to people. So I wanted to stay with numbers, and now I have my bachelor's degree in HR. But, you know, I feel very comfortable with it. I just remind myself that you just got to take it line by line and just look for any discrepancies that might be there.
I'll ask you, Ms. Black, what's your take on the POC?
So with, you know, I heard you kind of asking about the, at Moss Point School District, we had ALC, the Alternative Learning Center. And one of the things that we had to do is that, you know, it's just, you know, children shouldn't be forgotten. And I just don't think that, I know that there are kids who do bad things, but it doesn't make them bad kids. And so I always say there's probably something behind the actions that they're doing. And so Dr. Vincent was at POC. And I just think that, you know, you have to make effort to find out what's going on. And sometimes kids are so tough, they're not going to put that down. They're not going to let you in. And, you know, they always say they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And so I just think it's important that we just have to listen to what's going on and not be so busy.
Well, I'll tell you, one of my favorite persons I've ever met in education is Dr. Shannon Vincent. She's very impressive, and Moss Point's very lucky to have her.
Yes.
So you've really answered a lot of my questions, but I have 3 that I want to ask. What are your views on open data and transparency of information?
What are my views on open
Data
data?
and transparency of information.
Well, there should be data. That's everything, all the decisions you make are based on data in a school district. So you should have transparency. And the stakeholders is your community, your students, your staff, the council. All these people need to know what's going on. I think that's the one thing that the gentleman before me was talking about, is making sure that we're a partner. You're appointing somebody to this position. It shouldn't be taken lightly. And so, there's a lot at stake there. And so I do believe that there should be some transparency. There might be things that some people shouldn't see, but there's always somebody who should see something to know what's being made and why it's being made. Not only that, the more transparency you have, the more support you have of your community.
Go ahead. No.
Yeah, I was just wondering, how would you reach out to the parents? How would you guys make connections? Because, most of the problems when it comes to the children, it stems from home. So,
It does.
So how would you try to, I know every parent can't be reached, but are there anything that you've done in the past to try to reach out to the parents, say at one point that you would bring
Well,
it up?
that comes back to your administration and your leadership. You got to be careful as a board member how you're navigating out there, because if you're not careful, these parents are going to come to you before they go through the proper channels to get before you. And so, I think it's important that your board is seen, that they understand that there is a relationship, but your board has to be very careful to redirect them to where they need to go, because we don't run the district as a board. And I used to, and I've seen it firsthand, being in Moss Point, some of the challenges. And I remember saying to our board president before I left, I said, this is what I'll remind you. United we stand, divided we fall. And when you're in front of everybody, you have to be united. What happens behind closed doors? There might be differences, but when you walk out there, you need to stand united.
So will you be willing to come back annually and address the council regarding PGSD?
If that's allowed, absolutely.
It's allowed. You're appointed.
Oh. You just changed that decision, I think 2 motions ago.
No, you would be in an appointed position. So, Councilman Fournette just kind of wrapped up one of my other questions, so I'm good.
Yeah, I will just say this about coming to speak before our council. I think there needs to be more opportunity for Pascagoula Gaucher School Board to come and give us a report, talk about performance and metrics. If we're talking about the number one reason people move to areas for the schools, we need to have a bigger platform to kind of publicize that, and we can work together doing that. So there needs to be this kind of report, maybe on a semesterly basis, or maybe it doesn't even have to be that often, but a yearly basis. But we need to kind of see maybe the board president and see the superintendent and get a report. I just think it gives us another opportunity to talk about the good things that are going on in Pascagoula. So
absolutely. I think that's a great idea. I think it builds the relationship. It shows that it shows that everybody's on the same page, that everybody's working together for the betterment of the community in itself, and the youth and the students that are here, because that's what we want ultimately. I mean, we have 2 of the biggest industries, and we need to get that money in the city.
So with that kind of receptiveness is something I value, and I think other people here value as well. Any other questions for Ms. Black? All right, next, Mr. Van.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
I guess you
Evening.
heard, just tell us, we got your resume already, of course, and so you can tell us why you want the job and what you think sets you apart, or what do you bring to the table? So.
Okay. First of all, I'm Alton Van III. I'm lifelong resident of Pascagoula, grew up here, own a business here. Graduated from Pascagoula High School. I love the community. I love the district. I love our area. So I look to serve that on the board. I think that I bring a couple of different qualities when it comes to serving on this board. Number one, as a businessman and running a business in this town, just the business aspect of it, the knowing of looking at budgetary items to, trimming the fat, I guess, out of that budget, and knowing how to look for good quality people to help run your school district, to help run your schools, your elementary schools up to your high schools, along with different boards that I've served on, and knowing how to work with, everybody, from administrators down to first-year incoming teachers, giving them what they need. I think this district has a unique opportunity, and has for a while, with having a very generous budget to work with, and I think that can be utilized in some ways better to serve the administrators and the teachers and give them better opportunity for our youth. Also, obviously I'm an insurance guy, but oddly enough, I really come from a teaching background. My father and mother both graduated high school as teachers. I have two sisters that graduated college as teachers. I have a best friend that's grown up that's been superintendent of multiple school districts here in Mississippi. And, I think cousins down the line are just friends. And I think you pull from all avenues when you're sitting on a board. You pull from all avenues to try to make what you're serving better. So I think that we don't only look within what we're trying to do here. We look at what's working in, up around Cleveland, or you look at what's working in Jackson, or you look at what's working next door in Ocean Springs, and you pull those things in and you say, well, you look at this and you work with your administrators and you work with your teachers to try to implement those ideas, and you hold your superintendent accountable for those things, and you hold him, he's the boss, so you got to hold him accountable to bring those things in and implement those where, maybe they would work or maybe they weren't. So I think all across the board, I really think I could be a benefit to this board. So that's why I'm here. And I have 2 kids that are currently in the district, and 1 quarantine child that's coming in May that will so have a very vested interest in how this school district maintains over the next 19 or so years. So, and then, there and beyond. So, I have a love for it and a passion. And I thank y'all for allowing us all to be here tonight. I know it's making this night real long, so, but we appreciate that and appreciate the opportunity, and I'm open for questions.
In your view, what has the district done well over the last 5 years?
I think the district has done very well in marketing themselves, as far as we've been able to bring in some good administrators, some good teachers. We've got to hold on to those. I believe they've marketed Pascagoula well, and been an asset to incoming residents, with the condition of our schools, the upgrading of those schools, of course our new Performing Arts Center, different things like that. They have done very well, doing the marketing side of things. So that would probably, I would say, one of the biggest things our board's done, our school district has done.
What do you think that the district has done poorly that you would try to change?
Honestly, and I think I heard that touched on a little while ago, and I think the district is doing poorly on retention. I think we're losing some very good teachers and we're losing some very good administrators. And we have some very good teachers right now, and we have some excellent administrators. Dr. Smurthwaite's one of my favorite people in this entire world. You know, we've got to figure out a way to hold on to these people. So once again, pulling from other districts as far as, you know, if they have good retention, how are they keeping their teachers happy? I'm going to delve into something that I don't know maybe works, maybe doesn't, but I mean, I'm going to go back to what I said about this district having an oddly challenging budget. We have a good budget every year. We have some things that we can really work with, and I believe that we could help our teachers a little bit more. And I'm not saying just in salary. That's not something that's not a thing that I'm crossing. But there are a lot of donors choose. You see a lot of donors choose on Facebook. There's a lot of GoFundMe's. I believe that the board could work with our administrators and our teachers and maybe form some sort of wish list that maybe we could, as a board, work with the superintendent and help fund some of these items that are in great need, you know, that each school, you know, could benefit from. The children would then benefit from that, and it's not coming out of our teachers' pockets. It's not a raise, but it's not money out of their pocket. Because most teachers that do teach here, they love it here. They leave for financial reasons. Sometimes they're unhappy with their boss or their teacher, but you're going to lose or their boss or their superintendent or their principal or their you know, vice principal, whoever. You're going to lose some teachers that way. You're going to lose employees that way. It's just the nature of the beast. It's the ones that you're losing that are going to other opportunities for financial reasons or something like that. You've got to address that, and I believe there's ways that this board can do that.
Thank you.
Sir, I like what you said about pulling from all avenues. I've always been a big believer in if you don't know how to do something, or if you're not doing it well, take people out, you know, duplicate what they're doing to the best of your ability, and you know, bring it to your circle and make it work better. You know, because just like what you just said, you know people, and you reach out to them to see what they're doing, you know, in other places. Because that's always been the right thing to do, if you ask me, as far as improvement. You know, if you don't know what to do, ask somebody, get some training or whatever. But I just like what you said about that.
Okay. Yeah, and I appreciate that. I mean, in my business, you know, I'll have people call me and ask a question. Well, I was taught a long time ago, if you don't know, you don't answer. Right. You say, I'm going to go find somebody that does know. So for me, that's calling a different underwriter or calling a marketing rep or something like that. Right. So to me, the board, this school board could benefit from the same type of scenario. If you've got parents unhappy, talk to them. Well, if we don't have a solution, somebody else might. And you go talk to them, and you have a, I don't want to say a call list, but you have a call list. You call some people and go, well, what are y'all doing? Well, I got this problem, because I think school districts could work together across the state of Mississippi and make every school district better. So, you know, I have no problem calling Louisville School District and going, hey, what's going on up there? You know, I have no problem calling Ocean Springs and getting Eric Camp or whoever on the phone and saying, hey, what are y'all doing over there? You know, and Biloxi, whoever, you pull from where you need to pull from to get you know, to make things better, because it basically all ends up with the kids, and we're trying to make a better educational system for our kids. So if that means swallowing your pride and going asking for help, you swallow your pride and you go ask for help.
Yeah, one other quick thing is just that if we talk about retention, we can't really, you know, understand it until we have really a clear understanding of what the exit interviews are like, and why people leave, and what drives them to leave, and collate it, and it's data driven, and so you can fix problems. I hope you'd be receptive to kind of really digging in that. And we should have a best practices, but we should also have a set of metrics that, you know, here we are, and this is how much our school system pays, and here's what the other schools pay, and this is what their retention rate is with teachers, and here's where ours are. It's got to add up. And so, you know, those are the hard questions that you've got to press down on the leadership, the management, from a board level, and you can't be afraid to do that. And you all got to say, well, if people are leaving, what's your plan to correct this? So I hope that would be part of the, you know, sometimes it's the hard questions that the board has to ask, but then you have to expect the management to answer them.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as the board, you know, and I heard this said earlier too, top down, bottom up is very true, you know, but you know, your superintendent is your top boss. So they need to know what's going on, and the board needs to know why are these people leaving. We got to ask the tough, like you said, ask the tough questions, get the data, and be able to. You can't fix a problem you don't really know what the problem is. You can throw darts all day long. You're never going to hit the board if you don't know what you're shooting for.
All right, any other questions? All right, thank you.
Okay, thanks y'all. Appreciate the time.
Thank you.
Next, Ms. Wiggins, our final interviewee. Heather, I'm assuming that you heard the, you know, what
Yeah, I
we were
did,
asking
and I
for.
hope
Okay.
you don't think that I was writing it all down because I'm going to repeat some things that you all have said. And it wasn't on purpose. I have it notes. I'm Heather Wiggins, moved to Pascagoula in December of '98, married my husband the next spring. So I've been here pretty much my whole adult life. We have raised our children here. We have two, Landon, who is a senior at PHS and first in his class, I'm proud to say. Grace is in the top 20. She's a sophomore. So my kids have been in Pascagoula School District since the beginning. We started at Cherokee, Trent Lott, Calmer. Now they're at the high school. And the entire time that they've been in school, I've tried to be involved as much as possible. And that started actually with the city and the school district. So way long time ago, Richard Lucas invited me to be on the Pascagoula Strategic Steering Committee, and that's how I started getting involved. I've been on the PTOs at every school that my kids have been at. At Cherokee, I was a treasurer. I was also Parent of the Year there. I went through a program called Parents for Public Schools and graduated that program. I've been on the Superintendent's Parent Supervisory Committee. Both of my kids have been on the Student Advisory Committee. I was part of the group that started the Little Free Libraries in town. I've been in the Junior Auxiliary. I'm currently treasurer of the High School Choir Booster Club and pretty much constantly a soccer mom and team manager. So for all those reasons, I'm involved in the city, and I want to continue to see the progress that our district has made recently. I want to further that momentum, be a part of it, maybe bring some new ideas to the table. And as my kids are getting a little older now, they don't need me so much, so I have more time to do that. So I'm ready for your questions.
I have one. Do you think, so I'm trying to think what the differentiators between each of the different candidates. You have high school students as opposed to grammar school, is that, or elementary, does that give you a different perspective, or you, so?
I think so, only because we've been here this whole time, so I've had experience at all levels in Pascagoula, that is. So I do think it gives me some perspective.
How are you?
Hi, good, how are you?
All right, yes, I'm doing great. I was wondering, it's kind of similar to a question that I asked earlier, as far as parents, what kind of ideas do you have to reach these troubled kids through their parents? Is there anything that you think that you could do or bring to the board to, you know, make things better for these troubled kids? Because that's what the main issue is, you know, Pascagoula. That could be some of the reasons why some of these people leave. Maybe that could be a part of it. So I wonder if there's anything that you think of that you would, you know, try to implement.
Were you asking about the Opportunity Center earlier?
Yes, things like the Opportunity Center. Yes,
Yeah,
like
and I have to admit, I'm not super familiar with the Opportunity Center.
Yeah. But just troubled kids. I mean, you know, is there anything that you've done in your past that would, you know, help people that that's where the problem lies in most cases. Just, you know, kids that are distracting other kids in class and things like that. So anything you can think of that you might be able to do.
Well, I would say it was my psychology degree, but I haven't really used that in 20 plus years. I would have to think on it, and I have to get to know more about the policies that we already have in place and how we're handling those situations right now, because I'm just not that familiar, and would have to see what within the the policies that the board has and the district has and what the laws are to really comment. I did hear you speaking earlier, and I do feel like a lot of discipline problems are, you can't just separate all the kids and expect things to resolve. We need to look a little further. Why are they acting that way? I don't know how being on the school board, how much influence I would have on that. I just am not sure about how that works yet, but
A lot. You'll have a lot.
well, then I'd like to have some, and I lost my train of thought. So, but the point I wanted to make, though, is, yeah, we have to look deeper at it and not just set kids aside that are having problems. If it comes back to me, I'm going to go back to it.
I have a question. It looks like you have a wealth of experience in budgets and contracts, and I was wondering if you've had any occasion to view any past school district budgets, and do you have any particular ideas about going forward with them?
I don't. I haven't looked, but yeah, budgets are my life. I'm a project controller for a defense subcontractor, and I handle right now a $40 million contract, so that's pretty much what I do all day. I will say that in talking about the budget, I know I have a lot to learn about how the school district budget works, but my perspective, at least at my job, is we can always look for ways to cut. We can look for improvements. We can look for efficiencies, and that's probably how I would approach it. I'm waiting for Jennifer to ask me
Well,
about
I'm
teacher
looking at
retention.
okay, you know about my question, so what do you
Sorry.
think?
I couldn't help it over here. So I actually had some thoughts, and first of all, yeah, I've heard the same thing. I don't know, I don't have the facts, but I've definitely heard the same thing, that we have teachers leaving pretty often. I've heard that over the past 5 or 6 years. And my question is, of course, first of all, where's the data? Like, how many teachers are leaving? What's a norm, and is this unusual or is it not? I don't know those facts, so I would want to look at it.
More than 25% every year.
Okay.
And the response you get is, the reason is other. You don't get anything else.
Well, that would be my second
As a
question.
board member.
Is there an exit interview that they're doing?
Yes, and all you get to know is other.
Okay. Well, I suspect, just from what I do know and the people that I have interacted with, that there's something deeper going on, and I'm afraid that it's going to have to be perhaps an anonymous grievance line or some such, that we need to have a way. I've heard, okay, this is all hearsay, I'll admit it, that people are afraid to speak out. And I don't know why that is, and I don't like that. I don't think it should be that way. So as in whatever manner I can as part of the board, I would try to encourage the opposite of that, and for teachers and staff to come to us with any grievances that they have, so that we can resolve those things and get it out in the open. I did question, as I thought about it, who are the teachers that are leaving? Because are they our best and brightest teachers? Are we really losing the best ones? Or are we losing ones that weren't making a big difference? So all that's to be looked at.
When my children were there, we lost really good ones. We lost Shannon Vincent. She was a really great administrator. She's now the superintendent in Moss Point. And look how Moss Point has improved.
They're certainly on the right track, it
They
seems.
sure are. We lost a lot of teachers who are now there.
Did y'all have any more questions for me?
What are the factors on which you will base your decisions as a school board member?
Data. Being a numbers person, I'm pretty black and white, and I like to see the data. And obviously emotion goes into things, and laws go into things, but usually it's data. If I can make some other comments. One of the things, years ago, I was involved in the Parents for Public Schools program. I don't know if you've heard of it, but one of our current board members was actually in the class with me. And for years, it's been on my heart to do something in this community for the Hispanic population. We know after Katrina, it just grew tremendously. And I hear all the time about PGSD has low test scores because we have a large group of ELL learners. That's always one of the factors that I hear as a parent. Not the only factor, but one of them. So if I have the opportunity to be on the board, I would really like to work on something, an outreach program of some sort. I don't have the details of this all worked out, but something to draw those parents in more. I think, again, my experience, is that there's a language barrier. Often the kids speak better English than the parents do, and I think that causes the parents some anxiety in participating in the PTO, in helping their kids with homework, in talking to the teachers, anything like that. And so I would like to find ways to draw them in, whether it's English classes or going to their community to try to talk to them, getting interpreters. I don't have it all worked out yet, but that's really important to me, and I want you to know that that's something that I would be working on.
So I was involved with the school district for many years, and it kind of cycles through different areas that, you know, at one time it was destination graduation, everybody's got to go to college. Now the big idea is workforce development and things. In my opinion, school is as much about having well-rounded children, well-behaved children, and things like that. Do you put a lot of stock on what the schools are graded as far as when it's just grades?
I only put a lot of stock in the grade, in the whether we're an A or a B school district, because it affects the community. People are going to come, more people are likely to move to Pascagoula, which is what we all want, if we're an A school district. So I just see it as, if we can help these kids, if we can grow, they'll grow the test grades because they're doing better, and which only helps the school get a better grade, which only helps the city draw in more residents. So it's just it's a win-win for everybody. Did I answer your question?
Well, you did, but I mean, it's in my opinion that if you have a C or a D student and he's a great plumber or electrician or carpenter, and he's a good person and a good community member, to me, the school district's done a great job. And that's the reason I don't hold a lot of stock. I know all the, you know, everybody wants to see an A school district. But, you know, to me, it's what some of the programs are offered, the variety of the programs, the, you know, the learning as far as I call it the VOTEC.
Right.
You know, something else. I mean, I think we got to have programs like that for kids coming up. And to me, all students don't have to be A students. And, you know,
yeah, so pardon me, when you said...
And I'm not sure if anything's likely to change on that.
I agree with you, 100%.
Yeah, I do too. I'm sorry, because when you said grade, I thought you meant like the grading of the school system.
Well, I am speaking a little bit of that.
But I also hear you talking about like the CCTI, which my son went to and absolutely loved. And we were actually talking about it tonight, and he suggested that there should be more programs, that they're not using it to the full extent that they could. And I agree with them. My daughter is in Teacher Academy right now. I hope that she'll go into education. So there is such great opportunity there that will help the district stand out even more from others. So yeah, I want that to be more. I'm not so much concerned about whether the student that's the plumber is an A in the class. If he's happy and he does well and goes into something that makes him a career, we won. That's great.
Any other questions? All right, well, thank you for coming. Thank you all to the applicants. Look, everybody is, thank you for putting yourselves out there, for applying, for, you know, making the commitment to serve your community by applying for this position. This is going to be a very hard decision because there's so many good applicants. And so we'll be making that in about 2 weeks from now. So thank you all for being here tonight.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
All right, next, 10D.
Yes, sir. The Ingalls Avenue roadway improvements project is continuing to progress. DeCase Brothers Construction is doing a good job so far. As a previous task order that was approved by council, if the extension date was moved to October, which added 110 additional days for construction. As part of this 110 additional days for construction, along with some additional drainage improvements that need to be made, Overstreet Engineering is requesting a additional $27,800 for construction administration for the additional 110 days along with the drainage improvements. And there's an attachment further explaining the reasoning for that. And I know one of the major question is how much do we have in contingency right now? And we have $340,000 available if task order 1C is approved.
No questions, I'll make a motion that we approve the resolution.
There's a motion, is there a second?
Second.
A motion and a second, any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Next, Michael.
Yes, sir. Mississippi Power came to the last city council meeting to present the proposal on the LED replacement agreement. This is something that they're proposing to all the municipalities in Jackson County. It's basically an upgrade to the existing light system for our city. Currently, we still have some Cobra fixtures that are remaining. The Public Service Commission recently approved a decrease in LED lighting monthly costs. You'll see that there's an attachment showing the costs for the different type of LED lights along with the costs for the Cobra lighting. If council does approve the agreement, this would allow Mississippi Power to start replacement of Cobra fixtures to LED fixtures, and it can be prioritized based on the streets that council would like to address first. And that's something I could get of Mississippi Power about, if that's the direction council wants to proceed.
So this was a discussion that we had at last meeting about the potential savings and also the other kind of advanced technology to let them know when a light was out and they could repair it ahead of time.
Michael, did they give you guys some kind of time frame on how long this project would take?
They did not give a time frame, but as soon as council approved, I could start getting them to address the different areas that need to be looked at.
And what about the portion of the city that's under Singing River Services, Singing River Powers?
That would have to go through Singing River.
So, but have we been speaking with them about the LED lights in any form?
Sorry, could you answer?
Have we been speaking with them about the LED lights and the transfer?
I have not reached out to Singing River about LED lights.
You know, that is a very good point. It'd be nice to have it coordinated if possible, if they could do a similar type of arrangement or, you know, come back with, why don't we ask them if they could come back with their recommendations, and because we don't want to have half the city, you know, light it better and the other half not. So good point. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Make a motion we approve the Mississippi Power LED street light replacement agreement.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? That's 10D.
The next item pertains to a proposal by Allen Engineering and Science regarding the stormwater management program for the upcoming 21 permit. This is the group that came and presented before Christmas break. They have worked pretty closely with the planning and building department on getting their stormwater program up to date and current for the fiscal year 20, and now they're making a request for fiscal year 21 for $17,800 to continue their services.
Is this something we have to have in place? So we have.
Yes, sir.
And this has been typical of kind of the price range that we've paid in the past.
And Donovan can speak a little bit more about this. What has been kind of the typical services rendered for stormwater management program?
Each year we're required to submit a report to DEQ outlining what we've done. This was typically done with Allen Engineering in the past. We brought it in-house for a year or two with Jackie and Chandra and Dudley and the engineering department. Now with that department no longer really here, we went back with Allen Engineering and we were able to do it last year very effectively. These guys know what they're doing.
Make a motion we approve the Allen Engineering and Science proposal for stormwater management.
The motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Next,
The next item pertains to citizen concerns that have been raised regarding coyotes, in particular in the Beach Boulevard area. I'd say approximately 3 to 4 weeks ago, I started to receive a few calls regarding the presence of coyotes on the beachfront area. This notification, we started to work with the police department to see what options are available. The police department, along with myself, have been reaching out to wildlife officers regarding the appropriate steps to handle the coyote population. From speaking with wildlife officers, their thought process is that some of these coyotes may be coming from the George County area, migrating down to this part of the community. And there are a few options. One is trapping them, but it's key to note that the coyotes are quite smart creatures, and so the traps will have to be quite complex, and they're difficult to set them in the urban areas. The other option is shooting the coyotes. So those are the two options that we have available, and those are options that we get from every person that we speak with, whether it's a wildlife officer or just the Department of Natural Resources. It's been pretty consistent. And I know our police department has been working hard on this matter and doing a lot of research, and if you have any questions for them, we're happy to try to address it for you.
Who's going to shoot them, the wildlife officers or the policemen?
It would have to be the police department, and I do foresee a lot of liability issues.
Because I have a friend who works for the wildlife, and when I talked to him, he said they would come down and shoot them. I just because there were a lot of parents from Beach calling me because these things were chasing them, and someone from my church was chased by one, a lady older than me. So, and I'm old, so you know.
Yeah, I've had several calls over the 8 years I've been here. As far as I know, there's been coyotes in the area for quite some time, and former Police Chief Kenny Johnson told me that it's a very difficult situation, and whether it's true or not, I hadn't actually looked it up, but he told me that if you start reducing the pack size, that they actually just breed faster and bring their pack back up. So I'm not sure what the answer is. I know it's very difficult. It's not just as easy as going out and setting traps and hoping that y'all be doing something.
The only thing that scares me is if one of those things actually hurts one of these children or one of these, I mean, that's going to be, the city's going to have to pay for that. The city's going to have to.
The feedback we received from wildlife officers kind of dovetails into Councilman Tipton's thinking process, is that if you kill a few of them, there is going to be multiplication. And it's a lot better at this time to monitor it and make sure there are no issues, but try to just maintain safety, keep your animals locked up. And I know the police department's been doing a good job of getting that messaging out to the public.
Chief, you want to comment?
Yeah, getting on the tail end of that, I think the biggest thing is just educating the public, telling them what to do in case they encounter a coyote, or what to do to make your yard a place where coyotes don't want to come. I think Terry took a call where a gentleman's cat got taken by a coyote. That's what they're doing. They're hunting smaller animals. They don't want to hunt humans because we're too big. very rarely attack us. Even the attack you said, or the chase at the school, we sent units down to the school and the animal control, and I think we scared the kids more than we did anything because we couldn't find any kids that got chased by the cows. Since we started this, we've asked people to call in so we can kind of get an idea of where the coyote sightings are. I think from January 22nd up until now, we've had about 7 call-ins, mostly at night, and mostly, down south. So I really don't think we have a big problem. I think we need to just keep educating the citizens on keeping their animals on leash. If they see a coyote, they need to be bigger than the coyote, make a lot of noise, and just give them tips on what to do if they see one. Like everybody said, coyote's been here forever. Back in the 90s when I was on patrol, if you patrol this place at 2 or 3 o'clock at night, you'll see more than coyotes. I've seen a deer on Highway 9 in front of that wild buffet. So the wildlife is going to come here. We're just going to have to learn to manage it and learn what to do if we come encounter it.
So is that something that maybe in January we should do? We've mailed out some other things in the utility bill. So is that maybe something we should kind of do and send out with utility bills?
We can, and normally it's around this time of year when
Right.
It gets dark.
Between January and March when they are
exactly
reproducing.
It's just a thought, it's something we could probably do. I think just educating citizens on, if you see one, if it's coming toward you, just get big, yell. If it's not bothering you, just let it go.
And I had a physician who lives near me call me. It's the same thing. So.
Coyotes and foxes, they've been here, I've been here 30 years. And if you're on midnight shift riding around this place, you see them all the time.
Hey, Michael, it seems like that a lot of them are being seen in South Pascagoula. I notice we still have a lot of people feeding cats at the beach park and at the point. I mean, that's got to be, contributing to the problem.
That is a valid point. Councilman Parker, when speaking with the wildlife officer and telling him about that, he said in many ways coyotes adapt to the environment, and that's like setting up a buffet for them. So that's something that I don't think is helping the situation.
So the signs need to go out about feeding pets or feeding animals? Signs or something? You think that may help?
I think that may. Well, Chief Chapman.
Yeah, we can put signs out. And another thing about the coyotes, I mean, they eat rodents and rats and all that kind of stuff. So they're a good part of the ecosystem. Keeping those type of rodents down. But yeah, we can put out signs, and anything to get the public more aware, we can do it.
I just think that Matt brings up a good point. If they're feeding feral cats, and if that's part of their food source, and we're having a problem in South Pascagoula, it would seem to me that we ought to stop feeding, stop creating the food source. So maybe sending out some messages, putting out some signs, say that's the thing that you could help us reduce coyote population is stop feeding the cats down at the point. So.
Good luck.
Good luck. We've been down that road before.
Chief Chapman, what about chicken? You love chicken?
I'm sorry?
A coyote. They eat chicken.
Oh yeah, they're not they eat.
The reason why I asked, I don't mean for it to sound comically. I thought I heard a rooster crow in our neighborhood.
Okay.
The last couple of days I've been hearing a rooster. So there's some chicken somewhere.
It's legal to have chickens in the city limits.
Big what?
It is legal to have chickens in the city limits.
It is?
It is.
There you go there.
I've got 2 of them.
Yeah.
All right. Any other questions or comments on 10E?
Well, we could work on getting more information out to the public and just keep it focused.
Okay. Very good. Number 11, City Attorney Report, and 11A, resolutions.
Before you is a resolution correcting a lien that was settled on a property back, you recall back in November, we enrolled or adopted a resolution that enrolled several liens going back a good bit of time. And one of those that was included, the resolution added a penalty. There should not have been a penalty added to that. And so this resolution will correct that, and then we can submit this back to the tax collector so they can fix that for the property owner.
Make a motion, we approve the resolution correcting the lien on property claim.
There's a motion, is there a second? Second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Next, 11B.
The next resolution in front of you is a resolution enrolling liens. And these are 3 properties that were recently claimed since the time that last resolution was adopted.
Make a motion, we approve the resolution enrolling liens on properties claimed.
Second.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Next, number 12, Comptroller.
Yes, sir. This item pertains to the request by council to do an assessment of the water, sewer, and solid waste funds to determine whether or not some of these existing funds could be applied towards infrastructure projects. You'll see before you, Charlene has provided a memo assessing our water, sewer, and solid waste funds, and she's happy, along with myself, to address any particular questions regarding the current status of these funds.
Now, you and I have spoken, and I'd love to have a proposal where we have a very structured way that in our budget, or maybe we can consider some of these funds for paying down our deficit, whether that's, of course, looking long-term in the budget, but if any of these would be extra money that we could use to have that target to pay down, to reduce that $10.5 million, so that when we get it down, then we can start, considering things like reducing our millage or other things when we get all that paid back. So I don't know if any of these could fall into that category, but
Not at this point. If you see in the memo, you'll see that the state is really particular about what they consider surplus, and that's not a very good word, but they consider surplus funds in the water and sewer, and you can use those funds for water and sewer projects and drainage projects. There's no issues with using water and sewer funds for water and sewer. But to move any of that money from the water and sewer into the general fund, there's very strict stipulations, and one of those stipulations is that you can't move any monies out of the water and sewer fund over and above, it has to be over and above what the water and sewer fund debt is. And right now, our debt in the water and sewer fund outweighs the surplus of the monies, cash.
Mayor, I remember when we passed the $14.5 million bond issue, I had a conversation with a road manager from the county that was adamant that that's what the utility bill and stuff for, is to put money in there and do repairs. If we don't have that money in there, then we end up taking bond issues. We end up raising the citizens' taxes to pay for it. So I think it's exactly what it's in there for. We need to have it in there. We need to use it for our projects instead of just siphoning money off of it, and then all of a sudden we got to take out a bond issue to pay for infrastructure repairs. So I think it's a good practice that we continue to build that money up and try to do some of the projects with money instead of putting it in the general fund. Now, there may be a certain point where you can afford to do that, but I think it needs to be in there, and it's going to take a lot more than that to fix what the infrastructure problems we have.
fair enough. Any other questions?
I know one other item. Jeff and I will start looking at infrastructure projects that could potentially be accomplished with some of these funds, and we can present back to you hopefully on the February 16th meeting.
Right. And also, I guess you'll need to put in there about the rest of our rec bond money and how much we need to have to address or spend so that we spend down all that bond money so we won't be penalized for it. So bring that back to us as well. We can think about some other projects that may be useful. All right. Next, claims docket.
Make a motion to include the claims docket.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the claims docket. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Next, mayor council items. Anyone like to have a comment or on this area? All right. Next, we'll move to executive session.
Make a motion, we close open session to consider going into executive session.
Second.
There's a motion, a second, to move to a closed session to consider a executive session. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you.